All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS live stream here for you guys. Same crew as last night. We got a massive slate for you guys. Hopefully, you guys faded Chris Middleton last night. We were mentioned beforehand, FanDuel, he is still pretty chalky. I don't think many people got there on DraftKings from what I recall, but that was the benefit of the live stream yesterday. Someone that was kind of too chalky didn't end up getting there. How was your night overall yesterday?
Yeah, I did pretty well. Pretty much tripled up my entry fees. Didn't take anything down or get too close, but
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with it. I was too heavy on Julian Champagne, which hurt me. But all my Osmond pivot lineups, we did say we're like, if you're not playing Champagne, play Osmond in those builds, and those ones all did really well. So that worked out. I also played 100% Giannis, which
That was
was
nice.
a little scary at first. The first quarter was looking like a blowout, but that's what you got to remember. Like these teams on back to backs, usually they come out hot and they look good early, and then they kind of start to fall back to earth, and that's what we saw with the Bucks. But yeah, really good basketball last night, man. Those two games were really fun to watch. But yeah, pretty happy with it today. We got
Yeah.
14 games on the board, but only 11 on DK and 8 on FanDuel. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of nuance to how we're going to have to break this down.
And just looking at it in terms of, potentially, I don't want to call it good basketball, but we got a game total of 262. It's going to be fun basketball to watch, that's for sure. Atlanta versus Indy. And what I'm kind of shocked by just looking at that game in general, not as much ownership there as I would have thought for a game total that's going to be that high. Now, we did just get some news that might shift that with Andrew Nembhard being out. And hopefully the play that we kind of mentioned beforehand doesn't get too much chalk, but we'll start with that kind of news-wise. So we got news that Andrew Nembhard's out. Seems like TJ McConnell is going to be the natural play that we want to go to. Data-wise, it doesn't look like it's caught up just yet to that news. TJ McConnell is still a decent play. My question to you is, I think on DraftKings, he's going to be one of the plays I'm going on my way to play at 4.2. Just seems like an easy play. Probably should be at least 25% owned. What about on FanDuel, though, at 5.6? Is he someone you would still get to?
Yeah, so the scary thing is this time around, they do have Bruce Brown back. I think he's still technically questionable. I don't know that we got that news yet, but um, yeah, man, I like TJ. He's an amazing fantasy point per minute player. I love the matchup. There's going to be upside for steals and things here, but he is 5,600 on FanDuel, so he's really tough to get to. But that being said, like the value of guard tonight's honestly terrible. There's really not much I like, especially on FanDuel. I told you going in, I'm playing a ton of Pat Beverly
Yeah.
as things stand,
Yeah.
which is not something I'm ever excited to do. So I'm probably going to pivot a little of that to TJ and just kind of hope that works out. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't expect him to play 30 minutes or anything like that. They do still run a pretty deep rotation with Brown and Naismith now healthy. Some of those big games for him came with Halliburton out. Obviously, he's in there, but I mean, we're going to want pieces of that game one way or the other. And on DK, 4,200 for him definitely feels too cheap with Nembhard out. He is the backup point guard down here behind Halliburton. Brown definitely starting, going to be playing minutes on the wing for the most part.
Yeah. And then to your point about like Bruce Brown, I do think he's someone I can personally probably get to a little bit if he is active. Just he feels like a safe play, probably a little bit too priced up to feel good about it. But, with Nembhard out, it wouldn't be surprising to see him have a good game. Just another kind of cheap, I don't want to say low risk, but almost low risk way of gaining exposure to that game. That's really my appeal to TJ McConnell. Is there anyone else who do you prioritize in that game? We got Jalen Johnson as extreme chalk. I feel like that's an easy click. But after that, who would you be looking at? Or is it just
Yeah,
like dependent?
I mean, it is kind of slate dependent. I'll answer Jose's question as I respond to yours.
Yeah.
McConnell's not going to start here, so don't expect to see him starting. I think on DK, he's really solid off the bench. FanDuel, you could get there. Going to be riskier at the price. But to answer your question now, yeah, Jalen Johnson's definitely the best play here on both sides. His price is up, but he's just been crushing value. A really good matchup for him here. I like him a lot. I don't mind getting to Bay or Bogdanovich on either side. I'm going to be mixing them in. Probably won't have all three of those guys in a lineup, but I'm definitely comfortable playing two of the three. Again, I like Johnson best. I actually think Bogdanovich is the higher ceiling than Bay, but Bay probably is the higher floor. But in a matchup like this, I do like Bogdanovich's ceiling, even coming off the bench. So those three are really appealing to me. Obviously, Trey and Halliburton are the prizes here, but this is what I'm finding interesting. It's actually tough for me to get to them as much as I want to because I'm slamming Embiid tonight on FanDuel. We're looking at 3% ownership on Joel Embiid here against the Knicks. What's Isaiah Hartenstein going to do against him? Like, Embiid's going to crush here, man.
Yeah.
And, like, it's going to be a competitive game. I know the total isn't 262. Everyone's going to that first spot, but I don't know. I've had a lot of success lately taking big stands on studs and just trying to mix up the value because the value isn't always going to hit for you. The mid-range chalk isn't always going to hit for you. But if you can nail your studs, pause. I really like the upside of someone like Embiid. So
Yeah.
I'm getting heavy on Embiid. I'm not going to be 100% like I was with Giannis last night, but in those lineups, it's super tough to get up to those guards. So for me, I'm actually landing on a lot of DeJounte Murray right now, which I find interesting. Obviously, not the same upside of Halliburton or Trae Young, but he is a guy who can get you 50 fantasy points in the right matchup. And I think at lower ownership, he's a solid pivot. If you're paying up at center or forward, he makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I love the matchup for Trae. Halliburton's been outstanding, but Atlanta's been half decent against guards. Obviously, looking at the total, I don't think you have to worry about it. I do think Halliburton
Yeah.
has a higher floor. They both have similar upside. I mean, I love those guys if you can get to them. But for me tonight, I know we're talking about this game first, but I'm getting to a ton of Embiid, which makes it a little bit more difficult.
No, I got you there. That makes sense. For FanDuel, you kind of mentioned just with the studs in general. I had noticed that like lately over the past couple of weeks is that it seems like there's a lot of studs where there's just like egregiously low ownerships on them where it's just like you might as well just go in on them. I guess Curry and like Lillard are decent examples of that. Like if you played them on was it FanDuel where they're a little bit cheaper than they should have been, like it worked out.
Yeah, last night all three of those guards actually did pretty well.
Yeah.
Curry, Murray, and Lillard. We did a ton
Yeah.
of conversating of ranking them. They all pretty much hit value. So
That was one of those situations where you were more correct for sure with saying Giannis. At the same time, I wouldn't say I was like necessarily
yeah,
wrong with
yeah.
saying I'm going more balanced there. It was
Yeah,
an
it
interesting
worked
night
both
there.
ways. Yeah, especially on a two-gamer that it kind of worked out multiple ways was interesting. But on a night like tonight, I mean, definitely look at the ownerships. Like Trae is 18%. That feels a little bit
Yeah.
low. Halliburton's only 6 on FanDuel. Then you go over onto DK. Trae is sub 10%, but the difference over there is there's only 100 salary difference. So on
Yeah.
FanDuel, it's like 1K more plus to get to Halliburton. So I understand that break in ownership. But on DK, like, I mean, I definitely prefer Halliburton for 100 more, but you got to kind of look at the field. If you get Trae Young sub 10%, I do think it makes sense to pivot a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking low risk contests, and last night we were saying don't play cash games, don't play low
Yeah.
risk. On a slate like this, you definitely can. I think the logical play is to go Halliburton on DK over
Yeah.
Trae Young, but in tournaments at half the ownership, almost a third the ownership now as we see things update. I do think you can maybe get to Trae Young and kind of just hope that he can get there in terms of upside because I know we don't like to talk about like defense versus position very much because I mean today's NBA is pretty much positionless basketball.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to see that Atlanta has been half decent against guards. So I don't know. I thought this was like a great matchup for Halliburton. Digging a little bit deeper into it, it's a good one. I mean, look at the damn
Yeah.
total. He could have 20 assists here. But yeah, I'm pretty comfortable maybe making that pivot a little bit. And we're also going to have to talk about Donovan Mitchell, who is arguably in an even better
Yeah.
matchup and cheaper on DK than both of these guys. So it's going to be tough to fit more than one. It can be done, but I mean, I don't love the value on this slate. So you got to kind of have to pick and choose.
What's interesting about like Halliburton compared to Mitchell's like considering their pricing, they both seem like potential starting points. It's more like, do you want to go with a more balanced build or go with Mitchell? But then you also have Maxey that's popping up in there, which I wouldn't have guessed going against New York. OF index wise, he's like a clear cut standout play other than Jalen Johnson. So that's kind of interesting. Only 6% owned. So we'll get into that in a second. It might have to do with Melton being out.
Yep.
So interesting there. I'm trying to look over other injury news that we have. We have a lot, but like nothing too crazy, really. Like nothing that we haven't seen too much, nothing that really needs an extra point of emphasis. The only one I personally want to touch on would be the Lakers, but they're not on are they on the main slate? I don't think they're on the main slate.
I don't even think they're on either slate. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not worth it. Like I would have been like all over Reeves. Again, I'm so mad at them for doing that, but
yeah, it's annoying. I mean, the
Not worth it.
Mavericks situation on DK is something we have to
Yeah.
keep an eye on. I guess Luke is questionable. I imagine he
Yeah.
plays here. Do they really need him against Portland? Maybe, maybe not.
Mhm.
Portland's been pretty bad, but I think that's one we have to keep an eye on if you're playing on DK. Obviously, if Luke is out, Kyrie's going to be appealing. But I do want to just bring up the fact that in a lot of these games, Luke has been out with just Kyrie. Kyrie's been a bit disappointing. So
Yes.
he's going to look good. The OF index is going to like him. He's going to project well, but we saw this on the Nets too. Like before Harden was there, and it was just KD and Kyrie. Like games with KD out, you'd think that Kyrie would just go off, but I mean he was kind of inconsistent. So certainly it's
Wow.
going to boost his upside if Luke is out. But I don't know that you need to kind of build your whole night around that news, especially considering I think it's more likely than not we see Luka play.
Yeah. I mean, Kyrie, he becomes maybe a safe play, but we already
Yeah,
mentioned a bunch of other plays we could get to in better spots, seemingly. So, it's definitely interesting. Oh my goodness, man. We just got a Yahoo question
love it.
and I love it. I love it. I want to answer it because we never get a Yahoo question. So let's just answer that real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Cunningham or Halliburton on Yahoo. Um, I'm actually curious. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see what
Yahoo
the prices
value.
are.
Yahoo value, neither of them are popping up, which is interesting. We have so many min price plays when it comes to Yahoo, but I just want to see that. Let's sort it by just
Yeah,
salary.
Halliburton's 50 on DK or 50 on Yahoo. I'm trying to find Cade. That game, I'm guessing, isn't on the slates. That's why I don't have it pulled up. It's a 10 o'clock game.
Oh
So
yeah.
let me see
They'll
here.
just yeah.
I
So
didn't dig
Cade
too
is
deep into Detroit
yeah.
today, but yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
Cade is $35, 7.2 for a value rating there, and then Halliburton for Yahoo purposes, 7.8. So basically the same. It would slightly favor Halliburton there.
Yeah, it's close. I do think at the price, I mean, if you're chasing first place, you probably go Cade at much lower ownership.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, we talk about blowouts all the time. There's a 10.5 point spread here, but I had the hot take last night that I thought it'd be a really competitive game because Milwaukee was on the back-to-back after a competitive game against
Yeah.
Indiana. I mean, the Warriors played their heart out last night trying to hold that
They
lead and
did.
failing against Denver. So I know how bad Detroit is, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this game stay close. And even when Detroit's getting blown out, Cade has shown he can hit a ceiling. So I think
Oh.
if you want to make the safe play, you definitely just go with Halliburton. But to get different in tournaments, maybe you go with Cade. They both have great upside, though.
K's been pretty solid over the past like 2 weeks or so as well, in terms of upside. So I don't mind chasing that. Yeah, I forgot who Yahoo did DFS. I know it's crazy. One question from Courtney here: should you sort by OF index or by salary? So it's really up to you. I kind of like to do it honestly both ways, just kind of sort it by salary, just see kind of where the ownership's at. That's kind of what I like to do, is see which high price plays are coming in at low owned, and then sort by OF index to maybe potentially see why. Like for instance, with Joel Embiid, you look at it that way, you're seeing he's the best play on the board tonight. He's coming in at 7 and 3% on. That seems to be wrong. Halliburton, you're like, okay, it makes sense why he's chalked specifically on DraftKings. That's kind of how I like to go about doing it. What about you?
Yeah, same way. I mean, I usually want to get the plays I want in the most first. So, like, I'll see what's chalk. And, like, tonight, for example, on FanDuel, I see that Jalen Johnson's really popular. Sadiq Bey's really popular. I don't feel like compelled to have to force one of these guys in, but I'd probably start with, like, a Jalen Johnson. Then I go to OF Index, just like you said, and you see who the top plays are. See who's lower owned than they should be. And that's exactly where my kind of process started tonight. That's why I'm on Embiid. He's 3% owned. It makes no sense. So from there, then you can use the other sliders. Like you could, from there, sort by value once you get a stud or two that you really want in your lineup. And then you could use the salary thing and say, I only have room for guys that are under 6K left. But yeah, you got to kind of use it all. But I think first and foremost, it's good to sort by OF index, see who's low owned, and then kind of build around your studs where you can. In NBA, most of the time, it makes sense to kind of build with value first. But on a slate like this, where like the value's all kind of mid range, like there's nothing that I think is like a must play. You have to lock them in tonight. In terms of value, I'm pretty comfortable just kind of building with the plays I want the most first, and then kind of finishing out the rest of my lineup around that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I will say on a big slate like this, I typically like to start out with DK value, but to your like just to see if there's anyone like below 4K that's popping up specifically on DraftKings or FanDuel for that matter, just to see if there's anyone like I missed on. But that is not the case tonight. And so it's just like, okay, we can probably go more studs.
Mm-hmm.
And then just about Yahoo, we typically don't do Yahoo ownership just as it is. Like we got a question about Maxey and Embiid. Let's just touch on the Phillies situation a little bit here, because I wouldn't think that Melton being out would really shift that much. But apparently it is. Like Maxey is chalk, unless I'm missing something else. I don't really get why Maxey's that chalky on FanDuel. Do you have? I mean, I know he's getting heavy minutes. I see that. New York is just not a matchup that I love.
Yeah,
He's cheap, but why is
that's
he that
it.
chalky on FanDuel?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of two things. I mean, Melton being out does boost his usage. It is going to
Yeah,
secure minutes for him. Melton is kind of the other ball handler they have there.
yeah,
But the other thing is really price. Like, we're talking about all these guards we love. I mean, Mitchell's 10-5 on FanDuel, where he's sub 10K on DK. We also have SGA, who we're probably not even going to be able to get to, but also the guys in Halliburton and Trae Young that we like a lot. So if you're kind of stuck in that mid range, like if you're paying up at other positions, or if you want to fit into high price guards, it's really difficult to do unless we get more value. So I think people are just kind of landing on him there. Me personally, like I said, I think Embiid is comically underowned. So I'm going to be loading up on Embiid here. If you can fit one or the other, I saw we had that question. I'm going Embiid.
yep,
But I will say this: I am a little bit surprised to see Oubre drawing no ownership. I mean, he's been
yeah.
having better games sliding into the starting lineup. With Maxey out, he has seen increased usage. I'm not a guy who typically plays 30 minutes, but he could get closer to that mark here. So I'm super heavy on Oubre. And then reluctantly, I'm also landing on a lot of Pat Beverly. He is going to be the backup point guard here behind Maxey. Whenever Maxey's off the floor, I expect we see Beverly in. And while he's not a great fantasy producer or anything like that, I do think he gets over the 20 minutes we're projecting him for, which is enough on this slate. Again, if we had better value, I wouldn't even bring him up. But we do get a little bit of extra run for him, maybe some extra usage with that second unit, where they're not staggering Melton with Maxey or anything like that. So I don't know. I don't feel great about Beverly, but I do think people are kind of missing on Oubre here on
Yeah.
both sites. Like, how is 5,800 Oubre only 1% on DK? Like, I can't wrap my head around that. I know he's inconsistent, but I mean, just a few days ago, we got the Melton news, and Oubre was super chalk.
Yeah.
And
That game blew out too.
yeah, so like I think Oubre is a great play tonight at his ownership. I really, really like him. I think Embiid's underowned. And I mean, Maxey's a good play, but he's over-owned on FanDuel.
Yeah, it's weird.
So
It's
it's
weird.
very easy to pivot to a lower-owned Oubre. And like I said, I'm not feeling good about it, but I'm mixing in some Pat Bev just because we're lacking value at guard.
It's funny. My favorite value for Philly is probably Nick Batum, but like not really a ceiling there at that much. But he's 3.9 on DraftKings, so that's why I like him. And 4K on FanDuel, probably pulling in way too much ownership than I would like for him on FanDuel specifically. I get it, multiple position eligibility, small forward, power forward, but I like the ownership on DraftKings. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. And again, on a slate like this where there's not value you love, it's like, what does the value allow you to do? So it's not like you need more than 20 points out of him if he allows you to get two of those pay up guards or something like that. Because, it is going to be tough.
So let's jump into a couple of these questions, and we'll get into the position by position breakdown here. So we got Chris Davis asking about Drummond being a good player, not tonight. I've honestly, I haven't seen Drummond's pricing. That's something that might have missed. 8.3 only. I can get behind that. Only projected to get 23 minutes with Vooch back, though, right? Vooch is back.
Vooch and Levine are back. And we have gotten word that Vooch is going to be limited.
Yep.
But I just can't play Drummond with Vooch back because, if Vooch plays 25 minutes, I mean, that's definitely going to cut into Drummond. And I will say this. It is still a good matchup for centers against Charlotte, but I mean, he's also going to lose usage to Levine. And Drummond was seeing a lot of extra usage with both those guys out. So I don't know. I'm not getting there. It's tough to get to any of the Bulls here with these guys back.
Are they starting? I don't know if we got that confirmed yet.
I think they're going to start Drummond. I think there was a report that said Vooch would come off the bench and he'd be limited. But I think for him, limited is probably like 25, 26 minutes. So he could play more than Drummond even coming off the bench. We haven't gotten word on the exact number of minutes. We did hear that Levine's going to play 25 to 30, though. So all these guys are priced up as though Levine and Vooch are out. So as they return, it's just tough to get to them, even in a pretty good matchup here against Charlotte.
Yeah, it's just too much of a risk to bet on their minutes, pretty much. Like Kobe White, someone we were loading up on to get 38 minutes, only projected to get 33. Drummond, he can get there in 25, so can Vooch, but it's much more thin now. Fine GPP plays, I get. No, I wouldn't even say that. Just
Yeah,
You're
no,
zero
no, no.
percent
Yeah,
owned.
yeah, yes. I'm
Yeah,
nodding my head at something else, but yeah, I'm not playing any Bulls here, and
yeah,
if they kill me, they kill me. But with those guys back in the rotation, it's just tough to find value at any of those prices.
yeah. Yeah, and then so favorite low owned plays. We'll get into that as we do the position by position breakdown. We kind of mentioned Embiid as a play on FanDuel, pretty low, and DraftKings for that matter. Picks against Charlotte will forever be a thing. Yeah.
It's true.
Let's see here. Maxi overdue. I wouldn't say that.
If you're landing on a play, I'm like I feel fine.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just would rather get to Embiid, and if I'm in that range at guard, like I'm trying to pay up to some of these other guys. Or I mentioned I really like DeJounte Murray. I mean, we could use this
yeah,
to transition into guards, I guess.
yeah,
But yeah, there's a lot of great guards on this slate, especially on the high end. We don't even have Luka on FanDuel, but if he's in, I mean, he's going to look good against Portland. But then you have Halliburton, you have Trey, you have Mitchell, who are all amazing plays here. And then SGA is going to be super low owned because no one's going to be paying over those guys. And then Luke is
yeah,
kind of in the same boat. So I like Maxi here. It's just if I'm in that range, I'd rather either get higher if I can, or I'm landing on a lot of DeJounte Murray. Like I said, I think for a little bit cheaper, you get maybe similar upside in such a good matchup. And again, I'm so heavy on Embiid, just kind of game theory. I don't want to be too heavy on Maxi. It's rare that they both have ceiling games
yeah.
in the
Oh
same
yeah,
game. I mean, yeah.
yeah. Pivoting on into the guards there, then we do have a lot of chalk on the top end. Donovan Mitchell, Halburn, those two seem like pretty darn good plays. Then we got Scoot Henderson pulling in a lot of chalk. Now Scoot has been better recently in terms of getting the stats,
Starting.
and he is starting at point guard, right? So that helps. That feels. I don't know. That ownership feels too high. I feel like it's a big slate. It's not too crazy. I think it should be like 5% or 5% lower. Sorry, 5% lower.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I mean, it's interesting. Like ownership's pretty flat at guard on
Yeah,
DK tonight. I do think he's a little bit overowned, but you're gonna find like if you're building that the other options in that range aren't so great, especially a point guard. I mean, if you go to shooting guard, you could easily pivot to Bogdanovich, who's
yeah,
half the ownership. If you're not too heavy on that game already, I like him a lot. Tyus Jones, I think, is a sneaky play. Only 10% owned. Not a great matchup against Cleveland, but he does everything. I mean, he usually fills the stat sheet, so I'm comfortable getting to him. And we also have this TJ McConnell value now, which I imagine
yeah.
gets a little bit more popular on DK as things move along. Again, we're not expecting him to play 30 minutes or anything like that, but he can hit value at 4,200 in this matchup in just 20 minutes. So he's going to look really good here. We talked about the high end, but yeah, I'm with you, man. I like Scoot. I liked him coming into the season. I was kind of embarrassed to be so bullish on him after
Right.
those first few weeks, but it does seem like he's finally rounding into form. And I will say it does take point guards to kind of it takes them a little bit longer at the NBA level to kind of find their legs historically.
Yeah,
So we shouldn't be too surprised by that. But I don't mind him. But yeah, I agree. I do think he's overowned. The one good thing, I guess, is that if you have him in your lineup, you're able to kind of pivot with some of the later games if we do get other news.
that's true.
But yeah.
That's actually huge. I like that call out. I do just want to sort it by salary a little bit, and not sort by salary, just do the slider down a little bit because it seems like we're getting some pretty good ownership for some lower price plays. And I'm just kind of curious if there's one that you prefer better than the other. So we got about 5 plays that are about 9% or higher. Guard wise, DeLon Wright, 15%. The model likes him the most value wise. We got Sam Merrill, who played a lot in the last game against Washington because of blowout run. He got priced up slightly, but not too much. Jordan McLaughlin, someone 10%, 3.2. I don't think he's projected to get that many minutes. Yeah, 16 minutes. And then Alexander Walker for Minnesota as well. And then Jaden Springer. It seems like people are trying to punt, trying to get some value there. Only 10 minutes for him, so I don't get that.
I hate this whole group. I don't think I like anything you just listed there. So you have the slider down to what? 5K?
4K. So
4K. Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
gonna get tough.
I was
Beverly's
surprised
down
that
there.
with the
Yeah.
ownership.
I would probably go Beverly over a lot of these guys. I do think Merrill probably is the highest ceiling just because we've seen it. But if you're
Yeah.
in this range, just play TJ McConnell at this point. Like, I
Yeah.
really like TJ. And then another name I'll bring up, lower owned than all those guys, is Amon Thompson. I mean, Osser has been the better player because he's had the opportunity, but Amon was drafted higher. I mean, a lot of like draft pundits had him ranked higher than Osser. We saw how good Osser is, and as Amon gets more run and he's still cheap. I think he's a guy with upside we can consider. So
Yeah.
I don't know that we want to play a chalky Delon Wright or Sam Merrill. I'm very
Yeah.
comfortable getting away from it. I do think McConnell's going to get popular, but he's probably the good chalk in this range.
Yeah.
And then I'll mix in Pat Beverly and maybe some Amen Thomas, even though I'm not going to feel great about it. But yeah. Chalk Delon Wright does not feel
I found
good.
that interesting. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy there. So
No,
I mean, I kind of get it. It's a big price difference there and everything. Not terrible, but not like go out of your way crazy. Like 15% seems too high.
Yeah, it's not like he's even seeing like consistent minutes in that
No.
rotation, is he? Like I don't think anyone's out that's making him a good play. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he hasn't played 20 minutes at all. So I don't know. We listed a few other guys in that range I think are safer to get to. Merrill, I would like if he was like 2% owned, but 10 plus, I mean, that's a pretty easy guy to get away from, I think.
Yeah. And then just kind of sorting it by FanDuel value, seeing what's popping up. Maxey, again, that makes sense. In terms of pricing, the one that stands out is Bruce Brown and then a little bit of Kelly Oubre. Obviously, those are two players that are, DraftKings for Bruce Brown, guard forward eligible. He's only FanDuel eligible or he's only small forward eligible on FanDuel. Kelly Oubre going to be guard forward eligible on both sides. I think those are both fine punt plays, but I kind of want to echo your sentiment about Bogdanovich. Like, I feel like he is such a awesome upside play, and I'm really shocked at his ownership, specifically on DraftKings, because you look at his ownership on FanDuel, that feels much more correct in this game. Again, 262, 22%. We know he has a ceiling. Now, at the same time, Kelly Oubre is 5.8. Also does seem like a good upside play. I could get to really both of those guys and be over the weight, specifically on DraftKings, where on FanDuel, 6.3 for Kelly Oubre, only 3%.
Yeah, I mean, I like them both,
Crazy.
man. I think you want to get to both of them at those ownerships. Like, we're seeing guys like Norm Powell drawing a lot of ownership. Like, I don't know. I feel better about Oubre than all these guys. I know he's kind of inconsistent. He's capable of floor game, but I'm happy to get there. One other guy I'll bring up is Josh Giddey. I mean, we've seen him as chalk on a lot of these slates recently. I mean, he's scoring dependent, but at his price, I think he's kind of another fine option in that range, a little bit lower owned than I expected he'd be. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to pay up at guard a lot tonight, but some of these value plays we're talking about are definitely going to be necessary. Again, I really like McConnell on DK. I know he's coming off the bench. He's not going to play 30 minutes, but we have seen with Nemhard out, he's getting those backup point guard minutes, and that's enough for me to feel good about him at 4,200. So really just want to drive that point home. And then again, on FanDuel, I mean, Pat Beverly's going to get probably 22 to 26 minutes here. If he hits 2 or 3 threes, gets a steal or a block, I mean, he's close to value. Not excited about it, but at low ownership, I don't hate it. It does seem like he's getting some steam, though, suddenly. He's 21% on now.
I was just about to say, I'm not playing on FanDuel tonight specifically because I don't want to eat Pat Beverly.
Oh, man. Yeah, so it's funny. Like, I was building before the show, and I'm like, oh, wow, Pat Beverly, no one's getting to him.
Yeah.
I thought I was sharp for a minute there. But, yeah, who's been out for the Pels that Alvarado's been getting extra run? Is it Najee Marshall? Is he out again? Or Najee?
Trey Murphy, right?
Well, Trey Murphy's in, but I think Najee Marshall's out.
Matt Ryan a little bit as well, but like shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like Alvarado on FanDuel where you get the extra points for blocks and steals. He's just another guy. I mean, 4,800 is a little bit too expensive, but if you're stuck in that range and you want to get off of some of this Beverly chalk, I don't mind it. Again, Amen Thompson's another guy. I like the talent. I don't know that he's going to get the run here, but he's someone I consider. And I don't like to see this ownership on Peyton Pritchard, but he was someone with Al Horford out who could maybe get a little bit extra run. But yeah, it is scarce.
I want to spend some time on Houston real quick because I do think it's kind of a good point. I didn't notice how many minutes he's been playing, and he has been kind of good. Like, to me, it was like Jayshawn Tate is the play that we wanted to get to. He's still projected to get 29 minutes or so. He's fine as price tag, but I kind of don't mind the call on Amen Thompson. Like, getting in minutes, been productive in it. We still have Brooks out. We still have Tari Easton out. Like, I don't hate that call. I think it's a good call out to some of the chalk that's there. He's a little bit lower on than Patrick Beverly. I like that call out. I think it's pretty good.
Nice, man. Yeah, I like that we're on the same page there. And again, I mean, Eason's been out.
Yeah.
The thing about Tate is like he doesn't do anything with the ball, so he kind of needs, excuse me, everything to fall his way for that to work out. I did just see Smith Jr.'s back for the Nets. Um, I'm
Is
looking
he?
at his price. I mean, he's overpriced, so
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
don't need to get there, but
And that's
he
our
is going
stay
to get
away.
the. Yeah, it's just that rotation's flat right now. They've been playing
Yeah.
terrible. There's really nothing there. I think we need to
Yeah.
force, but it is interesting to see he's back. But he's still priced higher than he should be. So forget I even brought his name up.
Yeah, I gotcha. Let's see here. I think we got a couple of questions here. We got the chat popping off, guys. Love that. Keep that up. But I see one question. So Jose's asking, can you please rank Halliburton, Young, Mitchell? Man, I would go Halliburton or Mitchell, and then Young after that. I feel like it's just a toss up, honestly. But what about you?
Yeah, I think Halliburton's one, and then Mitchell and Young are really close. I'd probably go Young Mitchell with you, but yeah, I think Halliburton's one just because we've seen the ceiling lately. But on FanDuel, you're paying that premium. On
Yeah.
DK, I mean, it's pretty easy to get to Halliburton if you want to.
Then let's see here. McConnell or Bruce Brown, same on FanDuel. Whew.
On FanDuel, I think it's Brown just because you know he's going to get
Yeah.
the minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, on DK, I do think I like McConnell for the
Oh, yeah.
price. But yeah, I mean, I definitely want multiple pieces of this game. I was kind of hoping more of these guys for the Pacers would be ruled out by now because I don't know. I was looking into like maybe getting to some Aaron Naismith at small forward, things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like they're a little bit healthier than they have been lately. But I don't know. I'll say McConnell on DK, Brown on FanDuel.
Yeah. Let's see here. We got a question about the Miami Heat and kind of what to do there. Kane or Jovic there. I know one of them's chalk, and so I don't love that he's chalk. So I don't really know what to do there, honestly, because I don't love the fact that Jovic is kind of chalky on DraftKings. 20 obviously this game's not on FanDuel. 21% projected on 4.4, projected at 27 minutes. That's why he's chalk. I get that, but that makes me feel uncomfortable.
I mean, if you're set on playing them, what you do is you put Jovic in your utility. If he starts, leave
Mhm.
him, and if they pull him, go Kane instead. Like
Yeah.
Kane has been good, but if Jovic is starting, he's kind of the no-brainer there. It is scary because like they have
Yeah.
such a deep rotation there that they DMP guys sometimes. Still no Jimmy Butler though. I'll say if Jovic is in and starting, he's a good value play certainly on DK. But just put him at utility so you're able to pivot if you need to. We also did get word that Kevin Durant's out, so I'm trying to see if there's anyone else in that price range maybe you could pivot to.
Mhm.
But yeah, obviously that's going to help Bradley Beal and Booker and Grayson Allen and everybody. But yeah, maybe you could get up to Metu or go down to Bol or something like that if Jovic isn't starting because Bol's suddenly been getting minutes with KD out, which is
Yeah.
kind of insane. But yeah, there's your pivot. I mean, if Jovic is in your lineup and then he's ruled out, you could easily go down to Bol and not that I feel great about it, but I
Yeah.
mean, if he gets 20 minutes, he should be able to get you over 20 fantasy points.
Dude, I think you nailed that. I love that take, especially with the late night part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more on FanDuel tonight, so
Yeah.
I didn't dig too deep into these games, but I mean,
No,
I'm
I
just
like that.
looking at the starting lineups, and Jovic is projected to start, but Spoelstra likes to mix things up, so
Yeah.
who knows what they're going to do here.
So we got a question about Malachi Finn from like, I guess 2 questions, maybe 1 comment on it, but will he get minutes? And I have no idea what to say to this. What is your kind of thoughts here for Flynn?
I mean, Thibs is like Thibs has his guys. Thibs runs one of the tightest rotations of anybody. So he'll give him a shot at some point, but no, I don't think you can rely on him for minutes at all right now, unless someone's
Yeah.
ruled out because they're already going to Hart and Grimes off the bench in the backcourt. McBride, young player who Thibs seems to want to develop, he does get a lot of the blowout run. So I don't think Flynn's going to be really involved here. Anytime soon. If we were to get someone ruled out, maybe, but I would not touch him on this slate at all in what should be a really competitive and important game in the East.
And then we have one other question about John Collins, which will then help us to pivot into forward. So
Nice.
thoughts on John Collins? I don't want to touch John Collins. I don't want to touch really a lot of Utah, maybe Lauri Markkanen a little bit, but they're kind of like the Brooklyn Nets for me right now, where it's just like with everyone healthy, it kind of just seems like they're trying to figure stuff out rotation wise. And then there's no reason why we need to try to figure it out with them.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Collins is I haven't been playing him all year, but his price is like way down now. He's only
Mhm.
4,900 on DK. I don't think it's insane if you're landing on him, but against the Celtics, definitely not a play I'm excited about. But if we're using this to transition into forwards, the
Mhm.
forward I like on the Jazz is actually Fontecchio.
Is it
And
okay?
he's coming off 3 games where he's gone over 30
Yeah.
fantasy points. His price has not moved. I know it's a bad matchup, but who's to say he doesn't get run in a blowout as a young player? So I like Fontecchio here. I'm mixing him in on FanDuel at 5,200. He certainly is a floor in this matchup, but at low ownership, which I got to check, I don't know if he's drawing ownership. I
Zero
would
and two.
0 and 2. That's a play I'll definitely have some exposure to. Not really a building block for me or anything, but I would rather go to him, I think, than Collins, just knowing he has more upside.
Yeah, I like that. Fontecchio is someone like props wise, it was at like 17.5. I'm like, that's crazy. If he's gonna get 30 minutes, 28 minutes, I'm like, I love that. And so I actually kind of hate that you called it out because now I feel like I might want some exposure to him tonight at that price tag. Data wise, however, like looking at it DK value wise, he's not popping up too much, so maybe we're
Yeah,
a little bit too early on it. I like it might not be worthwhile. Like Jalen Johnson's the chalk. You got Josh Green. These are a
I
couple
don't
plays
like Josh
specifically on
Green.
DraftKings.
What are your thoughts on Green? Because we're here on forwards now, and like I said, I'm more on FanDuel,
Yeah,
so this isn't even a problem for me. But why is he
yeah.
over 20% owned? I don't
Minutes,
know.
and I think the Luca news. I'm guessing like both those two things. Like people are probably
Okay,
expecting Luca to sit. Is my guess.
but then why isn't Kyrie super chalk?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. I honestly like Jovic. I kind of get. Like to your point. If he's starting, we probably just eat that chalk. Josh Green. It's like, especially with the TJ McConnell stuff. Maybe this is something where we refresh it. We're at this price tag, like 4.2. Maybe McConnell will get more
yeah,
ownership
but like I'd
there.
rather play Fontecchio than Green personally.
Yeah,
And I know the model doesn't necessarily agree, but like I just don't get it. Like, sure, if Luca ends up out, then yeah, maybe get to some Josh Green. But I'm
yeah.
shocked at the ownership right now.
And talking about being shocked at ownership, sorted by value: Kelly Oubre, Brandon Ingram, Bruce Brown, Jaquez, Bay, Okoro. I literally keep going down the list. All the best values that we have today, except for the top three, are all pretty darn low owned. So that tells me at forward we could kind of get unique tonight. So I'm kind of excited about that. Like I mentioned, I kind of like Bruce Brown. Seems like a safe play. I don't know about the upside. We both mentioned Kelly Oubre as a good play. Brandon Ingram's a play that seemingly no one's on because he's kind of at a safe price tag on both sites, but not like a you're not going to get too much out of him. And then
Yeah,
Porzingis could really crush tonight too. I don't know. I kind of like some of these plays as like upside leverage plays, but like also kind of they're all safe plays is kind of my issue, I guess, tonight.
I mean, Okoro 2% on DK is interesting. He's 200 more and 18% on FanDuel. I know we have
Yeah.
less games over on FanDuel. Okoro's not the best basketball player, not the most consistent, but I think people are afraid to play him at that price. But I mean, you look over on FanDuel, 200 more, smaller slate. He's
Yeah.
almost chalk over there. So low owned on DK. I'd rather play Okoro than a Josh Green. We talked about Oubre, who's shockingly low owned. So yeah, I like this mid range. Bay, great. Jalen Johnson, definitely the best play on DK, but
Yeah.
that's one piece of chalk I'm very comfortable eating. But yeah, man, I mean, I think you live in this mid range here because we do want to pay up at guard as much as we can. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a pretty solid mid range. You got options.
And then just real quickly, FanDuel wise, it's basically going to be the same plays for the most part. So let's go ahead and jump on into centers. Obviously, we're kind of running out of time here. You're not. Are you double dipping again tonight, Discord wise, or no?
No, I'm not. Thank God. I do want to just touch on one more thing.
Yeah.
Someone just brought up that Franz is out for the Magic, and that game is
Really,
on the
Wagner.
DK slate. Yeah, he hurt his ankle. So all that really does is boost Banchero for me. I like Banchero more than I would have
Oh,
otherwise. If Fultz is out again, though, I guess Cole Anthony is going to
yeah.
look pretty good here. And again, Denver's on the back to back. Magic are actually a good team, though, so this should be a competitive game either way. But yeah, I'm not going to be rushing to play Caleb Houston because he suddenly starts here. But I do like getting to more Banchero and maybe Cole Anthony off the bench. They really priced up Suggs, though, huh? 6,800.
That's honestly though, like
I like the guy, but
I
man,
could
that's
get there. I could get there honestly. I think with
yeah.
Ansah. Don't love it though, obviously, but It's within the realm of possibilities that he goes off. It'd be better if like Cole Anthony was out, obviously. Like then we'd be going crazy. That'd be way too cheap. Then I get the price, and I don't think it's wrong. It's just sticker shock. But with Wagner out is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but to answer like the actual question, Boncharo is
Yeah,
going to benefit the most. Houston had a really good game last time out when Franz went down. He played 30 minutes. He had 4 steals though, and we're not going to be able to expect that here. Also, 4 for 6 from three. A little bit overpriced now, I think. So, yeah,
does this
he's going to benefit, but not enough for me to want to get there. I'd just try to get to more Banchero if you can.
does his brother get? That's his brother, right? I'm just assuming that.
Paul
Does he get more
Wagner.
run?
I
Yeah,
mean, he's actually been playing backup center minutes,
yeah,
so I don't know that he fall if that rotation changes. Maybe, but the thing is, Wendell Carter's been out, so he's been
yeah.
getting decent run with Carter out. So with Carter back, I don't know that he's getting much of a boost. But maybe he could. I don't know. I just don't think he's getting more run with Franz out than he was with Carter out. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Chat, if I forget and if Nick forgets, remind me to pull up this game before we finish the live stream as well as the McConnell chalk to see the update on that. But I'm just very curious to see if like what
yeah,
the data says after that. But we'll go ahead and jump on into the center plays for tonight. I'll have you kick it off. Is there anyone other than Joel Embiid that you are looking at? I'll say I really still like Jared Allen on DraftKings. That's kind of the one play I'm going out of my way to play. But what about you?
yeah, I love Allen on DK. 9,200 is tough for me to want to get to on
Yeah.
FanDuel. You could play him at power forward, though, so I probably do get to some. Someone brought him up early in the show. Larry Nance is probably my favorite value center tonight. He's been getting extended run. And yeah, I mean, that's enough for me to want to get to him. He does enough. On DK, 4,300, I think that's a little bit too cheap. Every game since he's been back, he's gotten over 20 fantasy points, which is kind of what you need at that price. He's a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, but again, you get extra points for blocks and steals. He's had I think he had a game with 5 steals his first game back. Not that that's something we're expecting, but I like Larry Nance's value. But yeah, I'm with you on Allen on DK. That's a really nice price point. But yeah, I am loading up on Embiid on FanDuel, so it's going to be a big night if Embiid has a big night for me. Going to be a really bad night if he doesn't. But yeah, I'm just taking a super stand there tonight, so we'll see how it goes.
Looking at ownership wise, it's kind of all spread out. We did get a question like earlier about Isaiah Jackson a little bit as well. I do think that that's a cheap way to get some exposure to that game. He's about 20% on both sides. I would say that's slightly too high for my liking. I would probably drop him probably to around 17 or so on both sides, maybe 16 or so. But I get it. But yeah, a little bit more chalk on FanDuel because it's a lower slate or smaller slate. DK, it's much more spread out. You have a little bit of Jovic there for Miami as like the chalk value. Isaiah Jackson as well. Cat, which I don't like, and I do love Allen, so I'm probably getting there. People are going back to the well with Tristan Thompson, hoping for the blowout run again. I kind of get it, but don't love it at the same time. Very interesting here. I think I'm pretty comfortable getting to Jared Allen. The one play that, as you know, our Nets fan, do you like the Nick Claxton chalk on FanDuel where he's 20% and then he's 5% on DraftKings?
I think he's fine, but like I don't know how high of a ceiling he has here. Like he can get you 40 or so fantasy points, but I think getting away from that chalk isn't going to hurt you. So yeah, I mean he's okay. He's a fine play, but like I said, I'm taking such an aggressive stand tonight. I don't want to land on too much. I will say this about Cat: this is the cheapest he's been all season. 7,200 on DK is pretty tempting. I'm not going to lie, even though he hasn't been playing that well. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. I just really like to pay up for Embiid tonight as much as I can. I
Yeah.
still can't wrap my head around the ownership. I mean, I can actually. It's because everyone wants to pay up for these guards. Like you have Halliburton, you have Trey, you have Mitchell, you have SGA. Like I totally get that, but I mean, when the field zigs on a big slate like this, if we can zag so easily, I'm going to get to a ton of Embiid. The Jalen Smith thing I think is interesting. I mean, I
Yeah.
do think Capella and Turner are a little bit lower owned than they should be in that game compared to some of the other options. If you're landing on either of them, fine. Smith's okay, but I don't know how consistent they're going to be with his minutes. Everyone was, or actually, no, I don't like Jalen Smith because I don't trust the rotations right now. For whatever reason, Carlisle's playing him like 7 minutes in the first half, doesn't play him the rest of the half. Second half, sometimes he gets run, sometimes he doesn't. Jackson's actually been getting more run than him. pretty consistently. So I don't mind Jackson, but I'd rather play Obi Toppin and forward than either of those guys.
Yeah.
But again, you're dealing with Rick Carlisle, who, after, Pop and Kerr, is one of the toughest minds to read. So you're kind of playing with fire a little bit in that front court, as appealing as that game environment is. So again, I want to make less decisions at center tonight. I'm going to be paying up big time for Embiid. I love Allen on DK, though. I do think he's still a little bit too cheap over there. He's been tremendous with Mobley out of the lineup.
All right, so I know we got a lot of questions coming in, but we're also pressed at time. Questions are first like build, or kind of both, I guess. I don't know. Can we fit that in?
Let's do your call, man. I'm fine either way. I don't know.
I'll just rapid fire kind of first like build. I kind of know the starting points. We got McConnell, Jalen Johnson in there, Jovic in there. Do you want to try to fit Embiid in there as well, or no?
If you want, actually on DK, I think Allen's fine if you want to go with Allen.
Yeah, go Allen.
My stance more of a FanDuel thing just because of the ownership.
Yeah. And then, so which guard? We kind of messed around with this throughout the whole video. We got McConnell, Halliburton, Murray, or kind of go with one of the lower price guards that we could potentially be on.
We're only left with around 6,500 per, so maybe we go with Mitchell, just because he's like 1K cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell.
Yep. I think that's fair. And then just kind of small forward wise, maybe Bruce Brown, but he's a little bit priced up. We could go with Bogdanovich as well. I like his upside. Kelly Oubre,
Bogdanovich or Bay, either of those two is fine with me.
All right, we'll go Bogdanovich there. And then guard forward, we got 5.3 left over. Decent.
I got let's I kind of want to go Bol, or you go Jovic at forward, and then if Jovic doesn't start, go to Bol.
I put him in the utility already. That was the first
nice.
thing I did,
Okay,
actually,
sharp. Oh, you're a step ahead of me then. Let's see.
Nance. I do like the Nance call. I feel like that's
let's go with
low
Nance.
in play.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
So I'll put Jovic then in the forward spot now, but it does leave us a little strapped. That's the Pelicans game's late enough, so hopefully that doesn't hurt. And then 6.3 left over. I'm going to put Kelly Oubre in there for now, or Scoot Henderson, but Kelly Oubre for now, just because we mentioned it. Decent first build, whatever. 500 left over, we can make that work. All right, so we'll jump into the comments real quick.
Yeah, if you want to rapid fire, we can hammer them out. Feel free to answer as you respond, or throw to me. Either way, we'll just rip through them.
I gotcha. So yeah, I'm trying to get caught up now, honestly, as well.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
So Michael Carter is questionable as well. Okay, great. Sangoon Cat mini stack. That's a no for me. What about for you?
If you can afford it, it's going to be super low owned. You're going to be super, super different than the field, though. I don't hate it. Also, don't love it. But if you like your value, sure, why not? But that's more of a large field play. I wouldn't be doing that in cash or small field stuff.
All right, next question is Chet. Kind of what are your thoughts on Chet tonight? I think he's a fine GPP upside play, especially on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's fine. Not something I'm prioritizing. Pretty low floor, honestly, for someone in that range, but also very high ceiling, as we've seen. So he's a good boomer bust player.
And then Glenn's got a question for you. How many pieces of the Atlanta Indy game are you getting to on FanDuel specifically?
I think the Jalen Johnson chalk is pretty much necessary. If you're getting to one of the high price guards, I don't know. I'd say if you have 3 to 5 in your lineup, you should feel fine. I don't think you have to force it as much because they are kind of priced where they should be tonight. But yeah, I'd say you probably want 2 to 4 in most lineups.
Just real quickly, looking for the Indy update. TJ McConnell now 20% owned on DraftKings. That's probably going to keep climbing, I think. So definitely interesting there. Let's see. So Cleveland blowout risk. Yeah, definitely blowout potential there. But
yeah. But if you're playing Cleveland, you're kind of wanting the upside there. And we saw Allen get to almost 60 points in 3 quarters last time. Maybe you don't play Allen with Mitchell, but even in 3 quarters, I think one of those guys can hit a ceiling.
Yeah. And then just real quickly, I think we're good on the questions for the most part. I might have missed some. Apologies there. I did want to look at the Magic again. Banchero kind of slightly went up in ownership, but not too much. Model didn't update too much. So
he is still expensive even with the boost, so I get it.
Yeah, and everyone else is too. Like Cole Anthony, if he was $500 cheaper, Jalen Suggs $500 cheaper, be better getting there. But
yeah.
All right, so that is pretty much going to be it. What are your final thoughts for the slate?
I did see someone ask if they thought TJD would get the start here. I think he might against Duran. I know they went to Looney against what's his name? What's his name is the MVP Jokic last night. But yeah, I mean, Kerr is tough to read, man. I don't have a good read on that, honestly. But yeah, final thoughts are, I mean, take your stance. I mean, even with some of the value opening up, I don't know that there's any like must plays. I do really like McConnell on DK. But again, with those extra games, just make sure you have room to pivot if you are playing someone like Jokic late. I think Beal's probably going to be a little bit on her own now. But again, it's just weird how they've been breaking up these slates. I'm taking a huge stand on Embiid tonight. I really hope that works out. But yeah, most of the field paying up Picard. So good luck, everyone.
Yeah, that summed it up pretty much for me as well. Jared Allen, I like. Jalen Johnson, I'm kind of eating the chalk there. But yeah, that's kind of it. Make sure to jump into the Discord chat, guys. Probably live right now. If not, going to be starting here shortly. Link to join that's going to be in the description below. Be in here tomorrow at the exact same time and hit the like button when you guys get here.
Take care, everyone.